My favorite thing about being a pedestrian in Richmond, Virginia is that I get to see such a range of people, communities, stores, experiences.
I do like how accessible it is, and then you have like buses or bikes or whatever to help you out too if you need.
I started biking just with friends and in groups, and I think it grew into something way bigger than I had ever expected.
Biking was always just fast and fun and free.
I think the favorite thing I have about cycling is that it essentially cured my seasonal depression.
I think my least favorite thing is that it feels so unnecessarily dangerous, especially given that we have areas like the VCU campus, downtown, that should be extremely walkable, but we have so many people being struck by vehicles.
I mean, least favorite thing, gotta be the cars.
Yeah, how dangerous, and cars are not looking for you. You just have to, there's no bike lanes.
There are some lanes I will not ride in because the design of the lanes is very dangerous, especially when you're riding in a bike lane that's directly to the side of driver's side doors. That's a really easy way to get doored and get hit.
I think my least favorite thing, I mean, I don't want to knock it because it's great, but I just wish there was more 15-minute bus lines. I wish the second pulse line could come here quicker. And of course, I want things to be more reliable.
But my least favorite is that it's only concentrated in the downtown area. I think a lot of areas in Richmond, especially other counties, would probably benefit from like wider transportation access.
Takes long to get on the bus.
I mean, there are definitely certain areas where like traffic lights and signs are a little harder to read. So not even necessarily that like it's hard to know when to walk, but if it's confusing for drivers.
The biggest actual challenge I've been receiving like this past year of being a pedestrian is like it doesn't mesh well with like the bike lanes. Like, a lot of times I have to walk on the bike lane itself, and like that's just not safe.
I think there have been a ton of improvements since I started biking around in Richmond, which was about 20 years ago. Back then there was really only one dedicated bike lane that I was usually riding on, and that was the one that's like on Lombardi that only is like 3 blocks right next to the Kroger. You're not really sure like where it's supposed to take you, where does it go to. It's really just you can get on that stretch. And I think within the last maybe 5 and 10 years, like more conversation around, well, how does the street serve everybody using every mode? How does it serve a person who's walking, or maybe is using a walker, or has a stroller?
In the time that I've been in Richmond for about a decade, and in that time I've seen such an increase in cycling infrastructure, also just general pedestrian infrastructure, that's making it way safer to be able to navigate to where you need to go.
A lot more bike lanes and a lot more positive conversation around bike infrastructure in general. But there were many, many years throughout my life when there were no bike lanes at all. And I still think that we have a ton of work to do. We don't have any hardened bike lanes in the city, and the bike lanes that we do have for the most part are protected by flex posts and paint, which is not really effective for safety. It also doesn't make families feel like using the bike lanes can be a good way for them to replace car travel, and that's really what we need.
There's negative changes when it comes to a lot of routes being changed. The buses by my house are no longer operating on the weekends, which is super inconvenient.
In my opinion, I think that like the areas that are more wealthy, I've seen tend to have a lot better quality with the streets and how safe it is versus like the areas like where I bike from, like sometimes have a lot less. From East End, some like just have a lot less like safety.
I hope to see like, more available stops in areas where they don't have a lot of access.
I approve of new transportation of GLTC, but they ain't linked up yet with the other bus companies. Like Greyhound down the street in Richmond is closed, so we gotta do something about that. Gotta reopen all sources.
I like that the bus system here is like pretty much free for Richmonders. I think that's really important. to incentivize people to not drive their cars. But I do wish that aside from the Pulse, the bus system was maybe a little bit more regular, a little bit more dependable.
I wish that there's this really cool plan called the Essential Infrastructure Plan to put 75% of bus stops to have a bench or shelter. I wish we could do that quicker. We know what we need to do. We're actually surprisingly aligned on that. It's just a matter of finding the will to get it done in a culture that still prioritizes the car.
I think we just need to keep working on what feels like a network. So roads that connect with this infrastructure. I think there are still, and this is just the nature of doing projects in a city that need funding and take a fair amount of time, but there are still gaps in the infrastructure where you might be on a bridge and you're on a bike lane, and then all of a sudden the bridge is over and the bike lane is also over, and you are not sure where you're supposed to be going quite yet.
The role that I play is, educating our youth on what that looks like, how to, advocate themselves for better infrastructure. But of course, solidifying some of those bike lanes we have, adding more, posts or concrete barriers to make it just safer for people to be out on the road, is definitely would be very needed.
On Monument, on Lombardi Street, it's this huge roundabout, and there are the lights are just kind of confusing to drivers, and there aren't any walk signs there. So maybe having more lights for that. And then, yeah, I feel emphasizing, I don't know how to do this, emphasizing that pedestrians have right of way. I feel drivers forget that sometimes.
On Cary and Main Street, where they have those pedestrian crossing things. I mean, I know they put up signs recently, but since I started driving, I've noticed that everyone seems really confused by them. So I feel making it a little bit, I'm not sure what exactly they could do, but making it more apparent how it works, because I've seen people some people stop for the things and some people are still going. Everybody doesn't really seem to know what's going on with those, because it's kind of just standing things on the sides of the road.
I've totally had a car run into me one time, and they just drove away after. And yeah, there definitely are things that could be done to mend that, I think.
The best way to get involved in making changes on an infrastructural level is, first things first, you need to know who your elected officials are. So drill down on the map. There's websites that can help you figure out, based on your address, exactly who is your elected official. So first you need to know who you are asking for support.
A lot of them hold periodic meetings in their neighborhoods, and just going to those and building a relationship with them, it's a mix of relationship and pressure.
We have a great advocacy organization in the city, Groundwork RVA. They have a great academy open to community members to learn more about how to be a better advocate for biking and also pedestrian infrastructure. They tend to be a good central spot for any information of upcoming laws or changes that they can give their input on. So staying plugged in with RVA Rapid Transit is great. They're the advocate for our bus system, and so they have their own training academy and also send out a lot of e-blasts about things that we can get involved in.
If you want to look at transportation regionally, talking to or going to some of the events that Plan RVA has around engaging with regional transportation planning and just how that sort of stuff develops is always good. Aside from advocacy or being able to see the process of that, Rag and Bones is great to be able to learn how to work on your bike, and just going on, there's so many groups that do group rides too. I think it's a great start to see your city from a bike and to let other people show you the cool things they've found by bike.
I think a lot of the people who live throughout Richmond, who live in different parts from different backgrounds, want to contribute to its upkeep.
I would definitely recommend looking for organizations that are already leading the charge and then plugging yourself in as a volunteer or an interested party and getting your hands involved in the work that's already happening.